few weeks ago, I was sitting in a faculty meeting where the N-word was said not once, but 6 times. In that moment, I was silenced. I talk about race and social justice in my classes every day, but in that moment, my words were caught in my throat. So I sat there. One, because I was terrified and I couldn't move, but also because I still had to present the report that I'd been working on for the past month. Because no matter how scared I was still at a mandatory work meeting. I'm not going to give you further details about the context of why that word was spoken so many times, because there is no context where that word can be said and not elicit that response. There's no intention I can explain that will put you at ease, because that story is an uncomfortable story, and nothing will change that. The thing is, that story is clearly one of racism. But I want you to understand this evening that racism isn't usually that easy to spot. It's usually things like this. Are you legal? Is that your real hair? You don't act black. Not native, so Navajo? But you're white. How are you Mexican? You speak really good English for being Hispanic. That's the type of racism we're going to talk about today. Because usually when racism happens, it's a microaggression. It's said as a compliment or worse, as a joke. And so it makes the person afflicted feel powerless to combat it because they're going to be labeled as overly sensitive or weak. So here we go. Let's have that conversation. How are you feeling? Uncomfortable? Afraid? Maybe you're worried about me, a stranger. You don't want to talk about such an ugly topic. Perhaps you've noticed the color of my skin and you feel like I might call you out or put you on the spot. Maybe you're worried about your words being taken out of context, your reputation. Maybe you're even worried about your job. Those are all very real fears. People that look like me, we have fears too. We're worried about being shot, killed, imprisoned. We're worried about being deported. We're worried about being stopped and frisked, passed over, ignored. Our fears are statistically proven, not exceptions to the rule. So when you're worried about talking about race, understand that maybe you have a little bit less on the line than people that look like me. Growing up, right here in Bernalillo County, I was taught how to interact with law enforcement so that I could make it home after a routine traffic stop. When I got my license, my parents pulled me aside and they said, when a cop stops you, this is what you do. 1, you turn off the car. 2, you roll down all the windows so the officer can see everyone inside the car. 3, you put your hands up. 4, you explain everything that you're going to do before you do it. I'm going to reach with my right hand into the glove box to get my registration. Is that okay, officer? Surviving as a person of color in the United States is just that, surviving. Before you say, that's not us, and give a racist their wings, I want you to understand that it is us. Because 8 years with the black president wasn't enough to heal our nation. We still have to have the conversation. The things that my students shared on those slides, those are spoken every day. The saddest part was I asked them, would you mind sharing something from my TED Talk? And they said, I'm not sure which microaggression I should use. I did everything right. I stayed in school, I kept my grades up, I got degrees. Yes, plural. I got married, I had kids, and I bought a house. But those accolades won't change the fact that when people look at me, they just see a black girl. Those experiences won't make my voice any louder. The very thing that makes me fight for equality, that makes us fight for equality, is the very thing that makes us invisible. Allies have this great opportunity to sit this one out. They can use that privilege to wait 4 more years for a redo. Well, people who can't take off their skin, we don't have that privilege. We need you, allies, to speak with us, for us, and about us. We know statistically that 67% of white media users don't talk about race issues on social media. Even though Black women and men are 6 times more likely to be incarcerated in their lifetime than white people. We know that even though in New Mexico, Black people only make up 3% of the population, 1 in 4 Black men are permanently disenfranchised. There's 4 other states in the US that have 28% of Black men unable to vote due to felony convictions, but those states have 10 times the Black population that we do here. We know that Black women are dying at 4 times the rate than white women when it comes to pregnancy, childbirth, and the year following. And that's regardless of socioeconomic status, age, or education level. We know that crimes of domestic violence are going underreported because of the fear of deportation. So the next time you see a shocking statistic, do some research, don't just ignore it, and share it on your social media. When someone tells you that something you said or did offended them, don't dismiss them. Instead, apologize and ask how you can do better. The next time you hear a racial joke or a microaggression, don't say, well, I didn't say it, and keep moving. Instead, think of how you can create a place of inclusion for that other that's in the room. Where I teach, I'm the only Black person in my department. I don't know if I'm the first, but I know that I watch myself when I'm at work. I make sure to bite my tongue so that I don't come across as the angry Black woman and earn that nomenclature. I'm gracious and patient when fellow faculty ask me about, of all things, my hair. I'm careful in everything that I do, and you have to understand that marginalized group members, we take care of how we do our hair, what we wear, and how we speak. And we don't do that for us. We do that to make sure everyone else is comfortable. Why do we have to change who we are to establish a seat at the table? So I ask you, don't just embrace diversity, embrace it with inclusion. Thank you.